Namaste and welcome to urban.chatterati. This is Abhinav Prakash. And today I'm joined by Sai Deepak to discuss the recent vulgar ads on the Hindu festivals by different corporate brands and the Hindus deciding to boycott or not buying the products of such corporate houses, which has been termed as economic terrorism. The Member of Parliament and the President of the Yuva Morcha, Tejasvi Surya, also tweeted about this thing, especially the advertisement by the Fab India, and he has come under heavy criticism by the usual suspects, calling him, promoting a regressive view of Hinduism, which is trying to force a culture on the people and basically being intolerant. So we have to discuss what the issue is all about, and I'm very glad that Sai Deepak has joined us today. So Sai, welcome to the show.
Namaste, Abhinav. Thank you.
Sai, what it is all about, the Hindus are saying we're not going to buy the product of Fab India, which is trying to do a cultural appropriation of Diwali festival, trying to eradicate the name of Diwali itself by some Jashn-e-Riwaz, whatever it is. And Tejasvi Surya also pointed it out. But now these people are saying, well, this is economic terrorism.
I don't know if they would call it economic terrorism when Palestinians resort to BDS against Israel. Okay. For some reason, they never consider that, because all these years we have been trying to say that when you try to stifle a particular society's ability to survive through economic blockade, then that is economic terrorism is the argument that is being used. But as you know that obviously there are multiple standards at play and double standard is their favorite standard. So therefore here is a clear instance where when individuals choose to exercise their right to not buy a product from an entity which disrespects and actively disrespects their sentiments, their religious sentiments, they see that also as economic boycott. What they don't seem to realize is that unlike coordinated movements such as the BDS and others, here is an organic individual mass reaction without any kind of organization. And therefore, this cannot be compared under any circumstances to, let's say, a cancel culture or a concerted deplatforming of a particular individual or an entity. And if people do not even have the option of exercising their legitimate right to express their displeasure and to the most peaceful means possible, then we are being told that everything is par for course and there is nothing that is worth objecting to. And our sentiments really don't matter. And so neither can we come onto the streets and take out a protest march, nor can we do anything which is unconstitutional, because that is not our nature. And that is the exclusive preserve of certain specific groups and specific mindsets and ideologies. And as far as we are concerned, we don't even have the right of saying, I'm sorry, I don't wish to spend my penny at a place which actively uses that to further an agenda which is Hindu-phobic and gradually results in secularization of the Hindu identity alone. And not just secularization of the Hindu identity, I'm sorry to say, even Islamization of our festivals. Okay. And to say that language has nothing to do with culture, I mean, who are they even talking about? I mean, what are they talking about? If you look at a clear evolution of language, it is not just a medium of communication. It is a carrier of history, civilization, culture, and religion. Dare I say culture? You can't, when we say Admi, what are we referring to? We are referring to someone who's come from Adam. Whereas we effectively speak of Manushya because we think of Manu. We don't think of Adam. Okay. So if language is not, let's say, a transmitter of culture and civilization, and dare I say even religion, then I don't understand what according to them is a transmitter of culture, because this is the most common daily used medium to keep talking about your culture using idiom, proverbs, and whatnot. So both from the standpoint of representation as well as from the standpoint of language, I think that the reactions are certainly warranted, and it is time that these corporate houses effectively realize that this will not be tolerated. Chahe wo Zomato ho ya Swiggy ho ya koi bhi ho. They need to get this message, and I think Snapdeal got the message the loudest after their endorsement of Amir Khan and his statement with respect to how this country has become unsafe for certain communities. So I think that should continue. People should realize this.
But why this is happening? You see the brands after brand promoting this kind of very vulgar version of the festivals. And it's not just the festivals. We all remember the advertisement by the Tanish brand, which is legitimizing the submission and subjugation of a Hindu woman married to a Muslim man, that she's so grateful that you are allowing me to celebrate a Hindu ritual. I mean, it's like peak patriarchy, and when the reality is completely reversed. I mean, we see daily news of Hindu girls being converted forcibly or pressurized or beaten, even killed for not converting to Islam. Why don't they make an ad about a Muslim girl marrying a Hindu boy and celebrating something like that?
Because obviously, whether it is the Indian state or let's say private India, so to speak, both of them seem to respond only to stone pelting or let's say elements which are not law abiding. The ones who stick to the law, who try to express their displeasure and their legitimate objections in the most reasonable and constitutional of manners possible, obviously get taken for right because their ability to abide by the law and stay within the means of the constitution or within the four corners of the constitution is interpreted as a sign of weakness. Gradually, I think they're pushing us to a point where we are forced to consider options which mirror the options of, let's say, other communities. I just hope that doesn't happen. Simply because, in general, it is bad for this country. In general, it's bad for the optics of this particular country, especially when it is trying to project itself as a country which is ready for bigger things and which is ready to go to higher places or bigger places. So, considering that, it may be bad. So, I hope they understand that this doesn't bode well for them because, after all, this is the largest demographic. Let me see which of these corporate houses can actually survive on the basis of a non-Hindu population and still be able to make a profit. That's not going to happen. Second, I do believe that it is easy to point fingers at any other community at this stage, but all of this points to a deep-seated malaise, which is the secularization of Hindus, Hindu traditions, and Hindu festivals in the Hindu mind more than any other mind. Okay. So when the cricket captain, who can't seem to do a fair job of his own, let's say, responsibilities, comes out and tells us, every festival is nothing but a mere celebration. मान्यवर के आड़ में कुछ भी पक्के चले जाते हैं. दिवाली के पहले मतलब बकवास के वीडियोस रिलीज कर देते हैं. And these people don't seem to value our sentiments. I think it reflects an advanced stage of secularization, which I think is the problem. Second, it is all. I'll give you a simple example from a personal anecdote. A couple of years ago, when the Diwali petitions were being fought heavily before the Supreme Court, the firecracker petitions, one of my colleagues from the fraternity, a very dear friend, ended up asking me, Sai, do you really believe that bursting of firecrackers is a ritual? I said, of course it's a ritual because there's enough literature to support it. She said, but I haven't heard of it. Okay. I said, then blame your education and blame your family and blame everybody else because you haven't been taught it. Okay. Nor do you seem to have, let's say, the open-mindedness to actually reconsider your position after the material is placed before you. Because all the documents and material that we placed before the Supreme Court, I walked it by her. And I said, look, this is it. So I hope that this is a wake-up call, not just in terms of the response that we need or response mechanisms that we need to cultivate, but we also make it a point to earmark some portion of our festivals, some, let's say, a specific portion on a given day, to inform our family members, especially the youngsters, of what is the significance of a certain festival. Because if you don't do that, tomorrow this Mahishasura nonsense will take over during Dashara. Okay, then we'll end up seeing Narakasura being celebrated at the time of Diwali. Okay, I mean, from a Daivik society, we might as well convert it to an Asuric society, which is what it is gradually moving towards. Okay, where every Asura is going to be celebrated. Ravanasura is, of course, regularly celebrated by Dravidian Periyarists without realizing that he proudly wore his Janayu. Okay. And according to him, he was the greatest practicing Brahmin. Okay. And he was the greatest Shiva Bhakta. So I don't know where do their ideals actually go when logic and facts confront them. So I do believe that this secularization at the level of the society is what we should seriously be concerned about, because the mind naturally moves towards legal solutions. Iska kya kar sakte hain, uska kya kar sakte hain. अरे बैंडेड से आप क्या कर लोगे कैंसर है ये okay so you need to address this at a very significant level and I hope quite a few institutions in fact Mathadipatis and Mathas have started releasing videos where they explain the spiritual significance and the dharmic significance of every festival. That is a relatively new trend. Previously you would not see their videos coming out on WhatsApp, especially on these occasions. You may have pravachans on a regular basis but not explaining this. So this, I think, is a welcome move. I just hope that as opposed to constantly spewing and spouting the elegance of dharma, we might as well actually understand its practical manifestations during our festivals. I think this has given us a very good opportunity. But I think each such controversy effectively opens our eyes to the gradual secularization of both pop culture, takeover of all these spaces from, let's say, the mainstream communities, or let's say the majority community, and being used to push a certain agenda. ये बिंदी के बगैर आप दिवाली क्या दिखा रहे हैं मेरे को समझ में नहीं आ रहा है. You see that as a sign of patriarchy. Even bindi is a sign of patriarchy. Yeah. Everything is a sign of patriarchy, and we are being told that our future is this. You should be grateful if you're allowed to celebrate your festivals. That's what effectively that entire ad translates to.
Yes, exactly. And when it comes to bindi, all the corporate brands are removing bindi because the wokes are now who are like deracinated Hindus, and most of them are Hindus, some of them are Muslims, are running the creative teams of these corporate houses. They are the one who are passing out of the colleges and going and managing these corporate houses. So see, suddenly the bindi has been wiped out as the patriarchy, but the same people will always make sure that Muslim woman is wearing hijab. Apparently that is not a symbol of patriarchy. That's a symbol of empowerment according to them. But you raised very important point about the cricket team and the firecracker ban. Now, yesterday, Supreme Court had said something else on the firecrackers, and our great Calcutta High Court, whose judges can't hear petitions against the violence, have said something else on the cracker ban. And then they have also said something about what kind of diya you can use now. Apparently, that is also being decided by the judiciary. Are we moving towards judicial dictatorship when it comes to Hindu festivals and Hindu tradition?
तो इस पे भी बात कर लेना चाहिए. Okay. Second, the interesting part is most people don't seem to understand what's going on in the Supreme Court. So I think it's very, very important, because I saw a few Twitter geniuses effectively saying that हमारे लोग वहां पे जाके petition क्यों नहीं file करते हैं, Supreme Court इतना सब कुछ कर रही है. Especially when people pointed out that it is well within the power of the government to set this house in order. Okay, so let me be very, very clear so that people have a clear picture as to what has happened. 2015, the petition was originally filed by a handful of advocates presenting their children as petitioners. Minors were presented as petitioners, saying they have asthma or let's say respiratory issues, and therefore Diwali is a problem. But importantly, the petitioners, to be fair to them, also spoke of stubble burning and other causes of pollution in Delhi. Unfortunately, the court latched on to exclusively speaking of the firecracker issue. Okay. Despite the petitioner itself moving multiple applications to talk about stubble burning also, because obviously stubble burning is a reality. Okay. So in 2015, ye hua, then by 2016, a series of orders were passed. In fag end of 2016 is when Indie Collective entered the fray. And we presented our position that this is a 6,000 crore industry with close to 1 million people working across the country. And while the sale may be seasonal, the industry is not seasonal. Okay. The manufacture happens throughout the year. And you can certainly come out with reasonable measures where if you believe that sale of firecrackers cannot be controlled, why don't you limit the quantity that can be introduced in the market? Source mein jaake aap usko thoda restrict kijiye. Composition ko aap restrict kar sakte hain. You can come out with community burning measures. Several countries are following this. So the entire controversy was about the use of barium, oxidizer that is used during the manufacture of firecrackers. So reports are presented that this is the most stable agent possible. In addition to the IIT Kanpur's report, and 3 other reports are presented which show that out of the top 12 causes of pollution north, let's say in the national capital region and in the northern parts of the country, firecracker does not figure anywhere. So इसका मतलब ये है basic levels of pollution ज़्यादा होते हैं because of 12 other causes, and ultimately when on that particular day this is burst, थोड़ा spike होता है because even the wind patterns are bad. तो आप क्या कर रहे हैं, हाथी को छोड़ रहे हैं और उसकी पूंछ को पकड़ के रो रहे हैं. Okay, that's exactly what is happening. the elephant is gone and you're saying अरे पूंछ रह गया. इतने सारे causes हैं. कंस्ट्रक्शन माफिया को आप हैंडल नहीं कर पाएंगे, ऑटोमोबाइल माफिया को आप हैंडल नहीं कर पाएंगे, फार्मर्स को हैंडल नहीं कर पाएंगे. All this is happening. Basmati production is one of the single biggest reasons for this pollution, particulate matter, because the aerosol content in the air goes up by 25%. And Basmati production has been actively pushed by state governments because it means money. Comes at the expense of groundwater levels, comes at the expense of increased salinity. They use more fertilizers. And I'm sorry to say, Punjab and Haryana are not known to be rice bowls. They're primarily for wheat. Okay. A handful of districts were actually cultivating Basmati. और आपने push करके ये करा दिया. We actually presented a report from Dr. Dhiren Jain of NASA.
It is because of MSP and government procurement.
MSP, 100%.
MSP is the root of the problem.
100%. 500 rupees is per quintal price typically for non-basmati rice. It becomes threefold, 1,500 to 2,000 rupees. I know this because I am the guy who's fighting for state government of Madhya Pradesh for the basmati inclusion. Okay, with respect to the GI issue. So I know what the politics of basmati is. Certain non-basmati varieties were then notified as basmati varieties in 2008, by the way. Okay. ये भी हो गया simply because it has more productivity. So what is otherwise not treated as basmati until 2008, suddenly वो भी basmati बन गया. So it's all about the name, the brand. Okay. So ये तो कोई deal नहीं करेगा. बार बार दिवाली 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 रोते जाएंगे. So as I said, any community that does not have a lobby or at least a street veto will suffer both before the judiciary as well as before the Indian state.
But Sai, coming to the cricket team, we saw the extremely cringe-worthy act by the cricket team that taking the knee, Black Lives Matters, whatnot. I mean, recently the Hindus have been completely wiped out, first time in the history of Afghanistan. There are no Hindus in Afghanistan. This has happened for the first time in the history. You have the ongoing massive violence against Hindus in Bangladesh, the slow ethnic cleansing. A man was killed brutally by the Nihangs at the Singhu border. These clowns did not take the knee for that, but for the Black Lives Matter. What is wrong with the cricket team?
So I'm sorry to say this, but barring a few individuals who perhaps actually play for the country, the rest of them play for a club. Okay. And I have never been a great fan of cricket. I watch it once in a while. Only when there is an India-Pakistan match, I take it very, very seriously. Other than that, I really don't.
One disclaimer. This was the first match I ever watched in 15, 16 years. And it was my T20 match because one of my friends came here and he said, okay, Dekho, let's watch this thing. And also because of the BLM ruckus, I actually got to know there's a match going on.
Yep. I'd prefer to watch a hockey match or the underdogs of Indian sports who don't get enough support or who don't get enough eyeballs, but not these over-pampered, brats of the first order. And घर के आसपास लोग जल रहे हैं, मर रहे हैं और उनको मारा जा रहा है, काटा जा रहा है. आपकी कम्युनिटी की मतलब पूरी तरह से एथनिक क्लींसिंग हो चुकी है एक नेबरिंग देश में और आप 10,000 किलोमीटर की दूर पे जो हो रहा है उसके बारे में बात कर रहे हैं. BCCI is among the richest sporting clubs in the world and the kind of clout that it has with ICC. I am not willing to buy this nonsense that ICC ने कुछ ऑर्डर दे दिया और BCCI को मतलब व्यवस्था से इसका पालन करना पड़ा. यार किसको उल्लू बना रहे हैं यार? Seriously, BCCI can literally pull the plug and the entire cricketing world will come on its knees because we are the biggest revenue generators for all practical purposes, given the population and everything. So this entire thing is reflective of the central theme of what I've written, which is coloniality. मतलब ये रंग से भारतीय हो सकते हैं, नाम से भारतीय हो सकते हैं, लेकिन इनका जो दिमाग है ये वेस्ट में बैठा है. That is very, very clear. I am not going to talk about their cricketing performances or anything simply because I really don't care. Okay, I don't care. I neither Aryan Khan interests me nor Virat Kohli interests me. My only point is, भाई, on major issues, on such issues, अगर कुछ बोलना नहीं है तो मुंह बंद रखा करो. ये public scene मत करो. Don't make buffoons of yourself in public, which is exactly what they did. They didn't have the guts to talk about, ठीक है, भारत के हिंदुओं के बारे में तो बात करने के लिए आपके अंदर हिम्मत नहीं है. Why don't you talk about Hindus in Bangladesh and Afghanistan? क्योंकि अंदर बात करेंगे तो आप पे ठप्पा लग जाएगा, क्योंकि आपके मुस्लिम teammates भी हैं. You have to survive in that particular atmosphere. All that is okay. What about the other countries? You can talk about it. You don't want to talk about the fact that you tell me one thing. At least 5 to 6 people have been killed after Article 370 in targeted killings in Kashmir. Okay, they can't take the knee. What is this? You think you're actually African Americans or what? This is exactly what was done by Black Power people during the peak of the civil rights movement. उसमें भी कोई originality नहीं है. Even in the expression of that particular solidarity, there is no originality. I'm sorry, that's what I say. These are mental slaves of the first order. The content में originality and expression originality.
Very fair point, and we have seen this campaign of no bindi, no business, and and people are saying that you are trying to Abrahamize, you're converting Hinduism into Abrahamism. Tejas also pointed out, that there's a slow attempt to make Hindu festivals comply to the Abrahamic mold of what the festival should be. What the religion should be. And then you have all these namesake Hindus like Sudhir Kulkarni and other people writing articles after articles, writing articles after article, attacking Tejasvi by saying that why are you talking in English? Why you are using the Western goods? Why are you using this and that if those are also not Abrahamic? Are these people mentally dumb or what?
They are not just mentally dumb. I think they're maliciously dumb. Okay. Because I don't think it's sufficient to simply give them the benefit of the doubt by saying nahi ullu hai ye hai, nahi bhai bahut dangerous ullu hai. Okay, because these are people who are penny wise and pound foolish. ये आज के power के लिए long term interest को sacrifice कर देंगे, उतने ही clear है. Because see, here's the idiotic statement. Every time someone says Hinduism is the most liberal of religions, I feel like saying, are you an idiot of the first order? Because you see, The liberalism lies in the fact that there is a diversity of options. What does it mean? बाकी जगहों में आपके पास एक या दो ऑप्शन होते हैं, यहां पे आपके पास लेट्स से फिगरेटिवली स्पीकिंग 108 ऑप्शन होते हैं. इसका मतलब ये है दैट आपने अगर एक संप्रदाय या एक पद्धति को अपना लिया, देन यू आर बाउंड बाय द रूल्स ऑफ इट, यू आर एक्सपेक्टेड टू कंप्लाई विद इट. बट इंस्टेड दीस जीनियसेस एंड अप सेइंग हिंदुइज्म में कोई रूल ही नहीं है, कोई एक्सपेक्टेशन ही नहीं है, एंड द मोमेंट यू स्टार्ट सेइंग दिस, ओ यू आर अब्रामाइजिंग इट. It's the stupidity where you're effectively saying that any requirement of compliance with a certain procedure translates to Abrahamism. No, that's not what it is. Abrahamism simply means there is only one approach and it is my way or the highway. In what we are saying is within a certain school, there is only one approach and you have multiple schools to choose from. So it is for you to decide which school comes closest to your nature and your ability to practice it. And you choose that and you be faithful to it by living by the values of that particular school. So as opposed to doing this, ये अपनी खुद की खिचड़ी पका देते हैं. नहीं, हम नीचे का सांबार लेंगे, ऊपर का बिसीबेला बात लेंगे और वहां से हम खिचड़ी लेके आएंगे, and then we'll say this is Hinduism. ऐसे नहीं होता Hinduism.
That's classic शादी का खाना in marriages.
Yeah,
mixing everything in the plate.
Chhatarpur Farms wala.
Yeah, but you know, say Diwali is a major religious festival. It's not just about bursting crackers or eating mithais. It's not some rivaj and tradition, whatnot.
Right.
In the Shakta tradition, the Diwali is Kal Ratri. It's one of the greatest tantra nights ever, where people
actually worship. I mean, powerful day.
Yeah, it's in my home. I've seen from childhood you have special pujas on Diwali because that's the main thing. Correct. Diya, crackers, those are the other outward celebration. It's a religious festival. It's not some festival of light and whatnot. Why do you think this thing is happening, that, branding Diwali as a festival of light and joy, where you simply go and meet relatives and all those crazy things, and there's no spiritual content left?
Because obviously corporatization of festivals is on the verge of completion, and our festivals and our religious events are being taken over by corporate interests. That is a fact. ये तब तक चलता रहेगा जब आपके जीवन में आध्यात्मिकता का कोई स्थान नहीं है और आध्यात्मिक इंस्टीट्यूशंस एंड गुरुज का कोई स्थान नहीं है. आई कीप कमिंग बैक टू द सेम पॉइंट that every time you relegate your institutions and your paramparaic gurus to ornamental status, where you simply go to them जब आपने नई गाड़ी खरीद ली या फिर आपको किसी के साथ शादी करना है और you have a sudden problem, okay, then it seems like you don't understand what is the value of the Guru Parampara itself, where you have constant guidance. So on the one hand, we keep saying that the Maulana, or let's say the Padri of a certain institution, constantly looks after his flock or his sheep and he takes care of his parish. You make that statement. Okay. Then when our people want to do that, you call it social control. Okay. When they're trying to tell you the very same thing, that the more you move away from your roots, you'll be rudderless. And the worst part is you will not be able to impart even whatever little value you have to the next generation, because already the institutions and the, let's say, the influences they're being exposed to really are trying to push them away as far as away from their roots as possible. So you need a sheet anchor, and that sheet anchor is nothing but your traditional institutions. Okay, that is the role that most, whether you call it the Gorakhnath Ka Math or any other place, each of these mathas are meant to give you a certain sense of belonging from a spiritual perspective, and second, the community identity, a sense of bonding. You're not alone. That if there is an issue that afflicts you, whether it is secular, religious, or whatever it is, there is an institution that will stand by you. That is the basic problem that most people don't understand. So on the one hand, you feel that Hindu में कोई प्रथा नहीं है, यहाँ पे लंगर वो लोग चलाते हैं, they don't take care of the poor people. How many examples do you want of our institutions, despite being under state control, trying to do their best to reach out to their people? ये positive examples इनके दिमाग में कभी आते ही नहीं है, इनके नजर में कभी आते ही नहीं है. Okay, so secularization of the Hindu life at the individual level, at the family level, and the societal level has effectively allowed corporate houses to fill that particular vacuum. See, I am not a communist. I don't even believe in extreme capitalism. I look for the Indian golden mean, that wealth generation is equally important, but a sense of restraint and balance is equally important. I would prefer to strike a clear balance between dharma and artha, period. Okay. I'm not a Luddite. I'm not anti, because at the end of the day, I have to earn my livelihood too. But I understand what is the limit? What is the red line that defines moderation? Unfortunately, that hasn't existed. And the human mind cannot survive in vacuum, which means if you do not allow it to be filled with positive thoughts and thoughts that are rooted to your own civilization, automatically alien thoughts are bound to enter it. It can't remain in shunya. That can't happen.
Yeah, true. I mean, in India, we always say, that you have to follow dharma, karma, kam, and moksha. So you have to pursue all the goals in life. Unless and you're taking sannyas, that's a different story. But last point, Sai. People say, come up with these ridiculous articles in the different left-wing portals. Say, well, no festival in India is celebrated in a uniform manner. There is no uniformity between how the communities perceive a certain festival. Then why are these bigot sanghis trying to impose a uniform structure on how this festival is? So you see this thing again and again. The diversity of Hindu society is again used by these leftists to argue for the destruction of the Hindu identity itself.
Correct.
How do you respond to that?
See, first of all, diversity is not a free pass for lack of identity or lack of rules. That's the first thing. Second, by conflating the even legitimate sentiment of an average Hindu who's a practicing Hindu as a Sanghi opinion, they are themselves giving the Sangh the status of guardians of Hinduism. Okay, neither has Sangh said so, but by these people's actions and their own implications, they are making it. Second, you're taking away the legitimate voice of a non-political Hindu who's not affiliated to any cultural organization to speak of what he believes is the paddhati in which his particular festival must be celebrated. Okay, this is the elites, the wine-tasting elites, the handful people sitting in South Delhi, South Bombay, South Chennai, South Bangalore. I don't know what is it with the south of each of these cities that you have all these deracinated elites. Pata nahi hai. I don't know how that works. Typically, South represents the direction of Yama, the god of death. Okay, maybe that's why all of this is happening. Okay. So anybody who does Sandhya or anything else, he will tell you that South represents the direction of death, which is why you're not supposed to sleep in that particular direction or mandir us taraf pe nahi hota hai. So I think these are the people who the death knell of the Indian civilization. I think the moment we have North Delhi, North Chennai and other places drive the civilization, we'll have a better time. So unfortunately, despite being a Southerner, I have to make this particular statement. So I do believe that this diversity as a free pass for lack of any rules needs to be countered. And secondly, I'm very, very happy that we have young leaders like Tejasvi who are using their bully pulpits for all practical purposes to effectively voice this opinion. Because then, given the demographic that he's capable of reaching and the fact that he is fairly outspoken, gives confidence to a lot of youth because that's what they're able to relate to. And I just hope that more and more people support this particular position and come out vocally, because Hindus have a tendency to put all their eggs in one basket, and in the process, ultimately, they pile on one particular individual. Okay, I think it's extremely unfair. This is a societal movement. This is a civilizational movement. As much as you should support voices which are actively speaking for it, I think it's equally important that you do your part. You also reciprocate and contribute to it. And in that sense, this call for an economic boycott of those people who don't respect Hindu sentiments is a sign of mass mobilization of Hindus at a very different level.
Fair point. And that explanation of the South Delhi and South Bombay, I mean, that's a very unique explanation. So I remember I was talking to someone and he was saying same thing. This Savarkar, maafi veer hai, maafi de ke bhag gaya, this and that. ऐसे क्या फर्क पड़ता है? What moral structure are you trying to impose on me? We worship Bhagwan Krishna's रण छोड़, वो तो मैदान छोड़ के. How does it matter? So we have to question the moral, underlying morality that you should not apologize. Why I should not apologize and live another day to fight, right? So you use the Indian, the moral structure and the explanation for doing this thing, which is a good thing. This is why language is important.
Correct.
But
absolutely.
But Sai, thanks a lot for your time. I know you have a court hearing coming up, but still you gave time to discuss this very important topic. Thank you. Thanks a lot. And best wishes.
Thank you, Abhinay. It was a pleasure. Thank you. Namaste.
Bye. And thank you, audience, for listening to us. Please subscribe to the channel. I'm not doing my shows that frequently because of other commitments, but I'll make sure that I'll have great speakers like Sai coming to the channel again and again. Thanks a lot.